Hello and welcome to all the Cobra Kai fans out there. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Stan.
Hello and greetings.
And we just got done watching Cobra Kai Episode 2, Strike First. And boy, Danny's life sucks. At first glance, it seems like a great life. Like it's perfect. He's got 2 kids. He's got a really, really physically beautiful wife. He's financially solvent.
He had a fairy tale life in the Disney form.
At first glance, it looks that way.
Exactly.
But then it's revealed over the course of the episode he's a slave. Johnny may have been a vagrant, but he was free. Johnny may be hated by his ex-wife and son, but Danny is not hated, but held as being so beneath his family that he's not worth hating. And what's more is that Johnny doesn't have to put on an act. Danny has to act every day. What does that do to a person? And honestly, I don't like that Danny is in that situation to an extent, because it just wounds me as a Karate Kid fan. That said, I do love Cobra Kai as a series, but the thing with this episode is we see that Danny has to go through a lot of the motions of a successful person without feeling like a success. So what is success without feeling like you're successful?
Because in that series of montages, there's only one scene that we could see that Danny was pleased.
Oh, you mean the montage is about him going to work and whatnot? Sorry, I was confused.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Go.
It was the only time was when the hood of the car was raised and he was telling the guy
how to repair it, and he was doing it himself. Yeah, and then they fist bumped. Yeah, that was a nice touch. But the problem with Danny is that he's not allowed to discipline his son, as seen at that Oakland Field or whatever gala event. His son treats him like a slave, like going, "Dad, where's my drink? Chop, chop." What? And they allowed their son to bring his tablet and video game. Danny did not have a say in that. He kept trying to get his kid to put it down. He's not allowed to take it from his kid. So, what is he, a child? Is he allowed to do... It's very weird that Danny can't even set the rules for his own behavior. And it's just shocking, because now there are certain rules that are established in every relationship. You date someone, there are rules and boundaries you do agree to and you set up and you talk about. And this is the natural way of things. And so, for example, I don't know. The thing is, I remember having, in previous relationships, talks with the girl and going, okay, here are the rules, and she'd say, well, I don't want this, and you compromise, and you go, okay, well, I don't like it when you do this or that, and then you just meet halfway, and generally that works for everyone involved. Here, there has not been a boundary discussion or a discussion of who gets to do what, or what you're going to do for each other. There's no talking. It's just, Danny, go make money. Danny, go prepare food and coffee for the kids. Danny. He's more a slave than a husband. And I know there's going to be that person who's going to go, so you think you should be beating Amanda or ruling the roost and yelling at people and laying down the law. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying Amanda is ruling that way. I am having a hard time seeing how she manages this house from how Sid manages things with Johnny. And yes, I went there because this is just jarring. Just because, the freaking pool party. I'm going to be honest. Had we done that as kids, how do you think our dad would have reacted? He'd have chewed us out and shrieked and hollered at us. And even, he was the lenient parent. And he'd have grounded us. He would have. I may have been a bit of the favorite, but I'd be seriously, hell. I don't even open the door for him at one point. And I got 2 hours of disciplining, and I got grounded. So, and I got chewed out by our grandmother on top of that. On top of our dad chewing me out. So, yeah. This sort of behavior, not acceptable, and Sam is just so out of line. Danny has to get scolded in front of all these kids. Oh, that's not humiliating at all. Then he has to clean up after them. And then he has to apologize and beg for Sam's forgiveness. And beg her to have Kyler come over. So he has to also play host to Kyler, who spends such a portion of the evening just kind of subtly mocking him a little, realizing who rules the roost. It is, like, I'm going to be honest. If this was done to a woman, I'd say, get out of the marriage, you deserve better, honey. So the same rules apply. This sort of behavior is abusive to women as it is to men. And this is just jarring. Danny has to pretend that everything's okay while being both housewife and work husband. And I know there's going to be someone who's like, yeah, rah, Amanda. But I'm going to be honest, I don't like Amanda as a character. I am freaking done with the character after season 5. And it's just, well, see our review of that. But the thing is, Amanda's not a good person or a good mother or a good wife. And yet she's laying down the law and saying, no, you're not allowed to humiliate our daughter like that. Are you kidding me? What about the humiliation done to the family over this stupid pool party? Yeah, I'm ranting. But anyways, meanwhile, Johnny is instilling in Miguel humility and discipline. 2 virtues and values that'll take him far in life. Yes, he's using Miguel essentially as hired help without having to pay him. But, as humorous as that is to an extent, Miguel is actually learning a great deal of discipline and humility from all of this that'll serve him long term later in the series. So, Johnny is doing a good job in that regard. That said, he is interrupted in the middle of a lesson at one point by first the phone call from the school regarding Robbie, who was caught carrying drugs for the school. And Johnny at first assumes Robbie's taking drugs and is worried and frightened, only to be told no, he's not. And Robbie tells him, you suck, over the phone. And Johnny just goes, well, nothing I can do here. Closes the phone because the principal's shocked and can tell that between Johnny's ex and Johnny's the more responsible parent.
And her comment is just...
She just stares and, I'll try the mother again. Yeah, good luck with that. Like, I'm going to be honest, the best parent in the series is Carmen. And probably Carmen's mom. Carmen's mom's a great mom. Look how well she raised her daughter. And yeah, Carmen had her kind of hiccup with, her previous boyfriend. But you got to bear in mind, she was basically a teenager when that took place. So she can be excused, kind of, if she didn't consent, what might have happened. So that's different. But Carmen is probably the best parent in the series. Like, miles better than anyone else. Johnny is not a great dad per se to Robbie. He's a good father to an extent. He tries, which is a lot more than what a lot of fathers do. He doesn't always succeed, but he tries, which that's all we're asking here. Danny has completely emotionally checked out, though that is his fault. But given his life, I don't know a single man who wouldn't be emotionally checked out. Because his wife seems to take pleasure in humiliating him in front of local kids and in front of all their friends' kids.
It's something that Danny should have barked back.
Or just broke and ran for Okinawa. Okay.
It's like offered a trip to the kids to Okinawa
And
made different promises, stayed there.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, Amanda would get Miyagi's old home.
But, like, Miyagi cared more about Danny and the kids than he did. Well, anyways. Danny's also out of sync and out of focus because he's not practicing Miyagi-Do anymore. He's not allowed. His master forbade him. And the thing, near the end of the episode, Miguel, who was humiliated by Kyler and his gang, and has begun to start to progress in Cobra Kai, is, as mentioned, cleaning up the place for Johnny. When Danny bursts in to challenge whoever is the sensei, it's obvious that Danny was probably expecting Kreese or something, or someone else. Perhaps someone like Mike Barnes or something, but not Johnny. Now, I would argue if it was Mike Barnes, Danny probably would have called the police or something. And we know for a fact that Mike Barnes, though he's still practicing karate, is not in the business of breaking people anymore. Johnny greets him and is greeted as sensei by Miguel, which shocks and horrifies Danny, who scoffs at him. But there's something interesting that happens wherein Danny says, well, you beat up my daughter's friends. And Johnny says, oh, I beat up a couple of punks who were wailing on a kid half their size. Basically implying what's so different between what Miyagi did and what I did. You know, it's implicit there. And Danny, flat-footed and unsure of what to do or say at that point, just kind of throws barbs at him, knowing Johnny is telling the truth. He knows. He just needs to take one look at Miguel and he knows. He needs to look Johnny in the eye and he knows. Johnny's a lot of things, but he's not a liar by nature. He's not a very good liar, for one thing. So Danny is kind of caught in this weird position. On the other hand, Johnny, whom has up until now been the shadow archetype, the shadow warrior, the masochist archetype, has now risen and bloomed into the warrior. And so when Danny says, you know what, you'll get yours, Johnny basically says, hey, I'm standing right here. Come get me. Basically, not in so many words, that last part, but he says, come get me. Come on. Danny, unable to face him, because he's a broken man and a shadow archetype. Danny is the denying innocent one archetype, which, as read from an excerpt, is the passive shadow position is the denying innocent one, innocent in quotation marks. In contrast to the manipulator, the innocent one does not have access to the power of the magician, but wants the status and glory that comes with it. When a person is acting from this shadow, they become the faker, so to speak, that has not put in the effort to gain the skills they desire, but act as though they have. They are jealous of those who have their desired skills or achievements, and will not hesitate to undermine them for his own pleasure. When confronted over the behavior or put to the test, they shy away in denial of responsibility for fear of exposing their incompetence. And the thing is, what did Danny do when he was confronted with Johnny? Johnny shrunk because he was a masochist. Danny humiliated him. So both of them were shadow archetype in that moment. But the thing is, Johnny, what did he do after that? Tossed a bonsai tree and rose to the occasion. And Danny has seen that, and archetypally, how does he feel about it? He's jealous because can he rise to the occasion right now? No, he's being stifled by his wife. So both of them are victims of abuse, of some of the most horrendous abuse imaginable. One is enslaved and living in chains. The other was living, well, they're both living with spiritual chains. One was chained to that moment in the parking lot. The other has shackles and chains to his wife. But the thing is, archetypally, they both have to kind of break free. Johnny already has. Danny is still trapped in the faker position and is jealous of Johnny. He is jealous because Johnny has overcome himself. Johnny is no longer living in that moment. Danny is still trapped in a way somewhere else. He's broken. Johnny was broken but put himself back together. As it's said in Batman Begins, why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves back up. And as Rocky Balboa once said, life is hard. It'll knock you down and keep you down. if you allow it, Johnny decided he wanted to get back up for another hit and has risen to the occasion. Danny can't, so he's jealous. And he no longer has the skills and achievements he once had. So that he's jealous of Johnny, who does have those skills and abilities now. And he did undermine Johnny for his own pleasure. But then he did try, some of the true magician archetype shine through, and he did try to provide aid. But this is the thing. We get glimpses of the magician, that is to say, Danny, but he's being shackled by his shadow, by the chains of slavery, in a way. Archetypal chains, so to speak. And Danny is denying responsibility over this, because he has made these decisions. And he is denying the fact that Amanda and Anthony, to a large extent, bear the responsibility, and even Sam to an extent, bear the responsibility for what has happened to him. That said, I'm not saying he should cast blame in their direction. No, no, no. But they do bear some responsibility. That said, Sam has terrible friends and a terrible boyfriend. Anthony, honestly, he's totally unlikable.
His head is stuck in a tablet.
Yeah, but he's basically become akin to Chosen or some of Johnny's friends from back in the day. Although Johnny's friends were smarter and nicer. So, you've got Anthony, who's become the kind of spoilt rich kid that, in a way, he's a child version of Sid. Just as Amanda is a female version, younger version, prettier version of Sid. So, Danny is not living with one Sid, but two of them. And he can't escape them.
And at heart, Danny's a blue-collar guy.
Yeah, as you have mentioned several times.
And he's thrust in a position of being a white-collar guy.
Yeah.
And it's a ball and chain to him.
Yeah. In reality, I think he wants to be a karate sensei. He wants to be like Mr. Miyagi. But he's not allowed to be. And I think it's harming him in a way, especially archetypally in a way, because the character does not belong in that position to an extent. Just as if you look at it less from an archetypal and more from a emotional point of view, there's been some sort of emotional damage that's been inflicted upon Danny. He is out of sync with himself. He is out of balance. And he desperately needs balance. And the trouble is, Johnny has found balance before him. Johnny is in a much better position emotionally. And I'd even say that Johnny, to an extent, has begun to break free from the chains put on him by his ex-wife and Robbie. So, let's rate this episode. I'm going to say this is a 2.
2.5. There's a lot that goes on in here. We see Johnny rising to the occasion, getting his
head in order. I like what he says. Get your house in order, LaRusso. Danny scoffs at that, but you can see that Danny is thinking, he's right, I need to get my house in order. No, like, he realizes that, and Johnny is spitting truth there. Get your house in order, which is a way of saying, clean yourself up, man.
I like that last scene where Danny hops into the car upset. Him and Johnny lock eyes.
It's like that smile at the school across the soccer field from Karate Kid 1. That's what it's a direct nod to.
And that is good for Danny as well, because it rattled Danny, but it put a fire under his ass.
Yeah, it put a fire under his rear. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to karate chop that like and that subscribe button.